Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are playing a deck that I was largely synonymous with for a little while over in the UK, and that is Blue-Red Splinter Twin. Pretty much once it's got banned in Modern, I never really played it in Modern, I used to play it in Legacy as soon as it got banned in Modern, weirdly, and I had a lot of success with it. Obviously certain things changed in the meta over the years, and it fell in and out of the meta quite a bit, and it wasn't great during the old Delver period where Blue-Red Delver was just everywhere. But now Blue-Red Delver isn't. Let's have a go with it. So the reason why this deck wasn't super amazing in the Delver era was because Delver was just so much better at Blue-Red stuff than we are, really. So they had the ability to just clock us with these enormous things, and they had so much card advantage and disruption. They were just a better expressive iteration deck than what this is trying to do. So as the game went on, we kind of fell by the wayside, and because Delver was so popular, everyone had a load of Pyroblasts. And our win condition, which is Deceiver Exarch or Pestermite, and then you put a Splinter Twin on it, tap it, the copy comes in, untaps the Splinter Twin copy, and you make infinite hasty guys and kill your opponent. That doesn't work if everyone's got 4 Pyroblasts in their sideboard. So it wasn't a great time for this deck. Now, things have changed a little bit. There's a lot more sort of green-white sort of decks, whether that's Naya Depths, which this deck used to be pretty good against, or things like Maverick, stuff like that. Death and Taxes. We've got a few more ways of actually getting to play the game and not just get Pyroblasted out, and we don't have to try and keep up with the card advantage of Expressive Iteration, which we were playing in here, but this deck is just not a very good Expressive Iteration deck, because it's got all of these expensive spells here, which just don't really work with Expressive Iteration very well. So, what have we got in this deck? Well, we've already mentioned the combo, but we also have 3 back to basics here. This has some interesting synergy because we've got these tappers. We can tap down their lands, play back to basics, and then they can't untap their lands. So we've got a little bit of synergy going on with these things, which is quite handy. We've got a bunch of cantrips. We've got Brainstorms and Ponders. I've definitely played all sorts of different cantrips in this deck before. I've even played Peak, which was quite good once upon a time. But at the moment, I don't think Peak's where I want to be, but maybe it is, but we'll find out after today. So I've got a couple of Spell Pierce to help pave the way. So sometimes the turn we go for it combo-wise is going to be turn 5, so we can have a little bit of mana up here for something like a Spell Pierce. We've got 4 Lightning Bolts, just a good piece of removal. Engineering Explosives is a nice catch-all that can destroy a lot of stuff and gives us a bit of game against as a Saga tokens in game 1. And it's just a generally useful and flexible card. And sometimes you might struggle to blow up something like a Tarmogoyf with things like Lightning Bolts, whatever. Explosives can handle that. But we're mainly trying to keep on instants and sorceries so that we can run these Snapcasters. Our deck almost entirely functions at instant speed until the turn we're going off, apart from the odd Ponder or maybe an Explosives. So the whole idea really is that our opponent doesn't know if they're about to die or not. So they kind of have to keep mana open, and then we can just put a Snapcaster Mage in and pull further ahead while they're keeping mana open. If they don't keep mana open, then we can just do our combo and kill them. So it puts our opponents in a really horrible spot. To protect what we've got going, we've got these Misdirections and Force of Wills. So this Misdirection is an interesting one. So if you're trying to cast a spell and you're worried about counter spells, you can misdirect a counter spell to your Misdirection. So this is effectively like a 5th Force of Will in terms of counter spells, but also in terms of removal. If there's another creature on the board, Misdirection can just misdirect that removal spell to their creature or whatever. So it's quite handy that way. That's more or less what we've got going on here. We've got 1 Brazen Borrower in case we need to bounce stuff, and we've got 1 Impulse just as another way of digging for cards. This could be a Peak, it could be something else. We're trying an Impulse today. I haven't played this deck for a while because it's not been great. Hopefully it's a bit better now. Mana base wise, we're a Prismatic Vista mana base here. We do have these 2 Volcanic Islands, which are usually the worst cards in the deck. I would like to cut them, and maybe they should be basics now. But for now, we're going to try it with the 2 Volks in and see how we feel. Maybe next time we approach this, we might just strip out these for another basic and another fetch. We'll see. Sideboard-wise, we've got Meltdowns for artifact matchups, things like 8-cast. We can bring this in, smash up all their construct tokens, which we've already established can sometimes be too big for us to kill. So we can smash up construct tokens, we can smash up their lands. It's really helpful. It can also smash up certain problem permanents for us that might stop us being able to win, something like Ensnaring Bridge isn't actually that bad because we have a 1/4, so it's quite easy to slip under it. But there can be other things. Curse Totem isn't a card that you see a lot these days. But things like Pithing Needle on one of these guys can certainly be a problem sometimes. And especially out of the decks. The decks that are going to be playing that are going to be as a Saga decks. So this Meltdown is just going to be good against them in multiple ways. We have Null Rod also for those sorts of decks. But this is also really good against the Storm decks, where most of their mana is coming from artifacts. We've got a couple of Pyroclasms for things like elves and goblins. Sometimes D&T is going to get caught up in this as well. We've got 3 Surgical Extractions for our Graveyard Hate. I don't really like Surgical Extraction very much as a piece of Graveyard Hate, but I think it's fine here. We can sometimes use it to get rid of removal in certain matchups as well, if there's going to be a grindier matchup where we just need to make sure I don't have the plow, and that's the thing that's going to stop us. Also, this has synergy with Snapcaster Mage, which is why we've gone for it here. We've got 3 Pyroblasts, so we can try and force things through. This also gives us a bit of ability to blow up Murktide and things like that, which we otherwise struggle with red removal. We have another Brazen Borrower in case there's things we need to bounce. This also doubles up as a handy beatdown tool if we need to. And we got 1 Hydroblast, which obviously, you know, is there for the sort of red stompy decks and Minsk and Boo and things that can overtake the game quickly. It's just kind of an upgrade from our other counter spells a little bit. And then down here, we have 2 Spellskites. So against decks that are trying to leverage removal to mess with our combo, we can bring in the Spellskites, and this can buy us the chance to protect ourselves around a removal spell. So that's more or less what we've got going here. I'd also like to add that the Splinter Twin on a Snapcaster Mage can just win games on its own as well. If you're buying back a spell every turn, whether it's a Brainstorm or a Lightning Bolt or whatever, that can be incredibly potent and just win the game as well. That's not really what we use a Splinter Twin for, but it's a thing we can do. Alright, I think I've covered more or less everything here. So before we jump into League, let me just say, like, comment, subscribe. These things cost you nothing and they really help me out, so why not do them? Okay, let's jump into a League with my beloved Blue-Red Twin that I don't think is any good still, but I think it's better than it was, so let's give it a whirl. This is our opening hand. We don't have a cantrip. We're very vulnerable to Wasteland. We can just get better hands than this, so we'll mulligan. We don't need 3 of our combo pieces. This is a much better hand. We'll keep this one. What are we backing? Probably the additional back to basics can go here. We'll say done. So we have a turn 4 win if we have enough lands. A Den of the Bugbear. Okay. Interesting. This feels like some sort of stompy matchup. A red stompy usually is where you see a Den of the Bugbear. Usually mono red. Okay, so we've got ourselves a Spell Pierce. That's a pretty good one. We want to get the island out here rather than the Prismatic Vista in case we draw a Brainstorm, then we can Brainstorm Shuffle, etc. We've got a Spell Pierce for anything that we don't like here, but we'll see what that is. A Rabble Master. I think we probably have to say no to this one because the clock that this provides is just a bit too swift. I don't think we need to protect our creature with removal given the nature of our opponent's deck. So, we want this Brainstorm here. Is there any reason to do it now? We might as well wait for our opponent's turn and we'll have more information about what we might be looking for. Obviously, lands is one of the things we're looking for. If our opponent taps out for something like a Trinisphere and we can put a land on top or into our hand, then we can just play the back to basics and win the game that way. A Chrome Mox. Sure. That's fine for now. This feels like a Caves of Chaos Adventurer turn. I could be mistaken. We raise Caves of Chaos Adventurer with what we've got going on here, as long as we have 2 lands available in the near future. So we're probably looking at ditching the back to basics soon. 1, 2, 3. Blood Moon. Okay. We will cast this Brainstorm first. This Blood Moon doesn't interact with our deck at all. So this is not a back to basics matchup. We're probably going to keep this Ponder. The Pestermite is quite vulnerable to red spells, so we're going to get rid of the Pestermite here. And then we're going to crack this for... I think we want another island here, just so we can do double cantrips if necessary. This does not really impact us, so this is pretty nice for us to see. There's another island. I think we Ponder first, because this island doesn't cast the red pip on Splinter Twin here. So let's have a look with our Ponder. Back to basics again. That's actually okay here. So we can put Pestermite on top, then Flooded Strand, and then back to basics. So you can draw the back to basics this turn. The Flooded Strand is a red source, so we'll play this one out. So these are non-basic mountains, so they will not untap under our back to basics. Our red source won't untap either, but we're not going to use that. Let's see what this is. Syrian Spirit Guide as well, a Fury. That's fine. We're just looking for another red source here. But we get to remove all our opponent's lands, and then we can just tap this down so it doesn't actually fight us in combat. So here's the Flooded Strand. We'll play this. It's just a mountain. We'll play this back to basics here. We can take 6 off the Fury. This is going to lock out our opponent's mana sources. We know there's a Pestermite on top of our library, which we can also untap our... If we need red mana for something, we can then untap it again, but we can't get 2 pips that way. So this is going to hit us for 6. Next turn, it's going to get tapped down. Turn after, it's going to get tapped down. And it's going to keep happening until we hopefully win the game. All right. They do have 1 red mana from the Mox. Let's play this guy. Let's tap down this Fury. We're not getting hit by the Fury. City of Traitors. Okay, we're just looking for red sources. Snapcaster Mage. Does that do anything? That can give us a Brainstorm. How do I feel about a Brainstorm here? Interesting. We could just tap down this City of Traitors and our opponent's upkeep. And then chump block with a Deceiver Exarch. I don't hate that. We'll try this one. Let's tap down this City of Traitors. It's like the 3 drops in their deck is kind of like the sweet spot of the scary things. So we're kind of stopping them from doing this. Because if they have a thing to put in print on this and a land, okay. So we can take 6 if we want to, or we can just chump block here. That's fine. We've got tappers coming out the wazoo here. So this turn is probably going to be a Snapcaster Brainstorm turn, unless we draw a red source right now. We did not draw a red source. If we Snapcaster Brainstorm now, we could hit a Ponder. I think that's fine. Let's cast this. Actually, we probably want to get the Ponder here rather than the Brainstorm, right? That makes more sense given our hand. Cast a Ponder. We got a Snapcaster Mage chump block. Force of Will, Flooded Strand. So I think we put the Force of Will, then we put the Flooded Strand, then we put the Force of Will. We say no, so we draw this. So we have Force of Will blue card in our hand, and then we can untap into Splinter Twin and kill our opponent. We have a chump block for this if we need it. We might not need it. So I think we've sewn this game up more or less. Chump block here. It's not necessarily necessary, but I don't think it hurts. All right, so we draw a mountain here. Cast this. Red, 1, 2. Make some infinite guys. Right, our opponent's familiar with the combo and they're conceding to save us some time. Appreciate that. So, this matchup. Interesting. Hydroblast obviously feels pretty good here. Brazen Borrower certainly is relatively useful. I think we need the Pyroclasms for the goblins. I think we can definitely come unstuck if they get goblins on the go, and then we don't really get anything going. I don't think we need Meltdowns. Like, what Meltdown can do for us is blow up their artifact mana and maybe some of the other bits and pieces they have. But I think having Borrowers and the Engineered Explosives can kind of do that anyway. Our opponent's probably not going to have things like Ensnaring Bridge, given that they were looking like a more aggressive bent. Back to basics, good here. Our opponent has a lot of non-basics. Misdirection, pretty bad, I would say. Spell Pierce is pretty decent. We don't want to have too many 1-drops in case our opponent has Chalice and things in play, which is another potential reason we want that on the Meltdown, I guess. Interesting. I think we do need the Lightning Bolts. It kills Chaos Adventurer, it kills the Goblin. These are important things. I think on the play, on the draw, we can't really keep these Spell Piercers in. I don't think that's where we want to be. I think we'll probably trim a Ponder and another Ponder to give us a Meltdown. And it's a question of, do we want to fit in a second Meltdown? Or do you want to have this Brazen Borrower? I think this is fine for now. We'll roll it like this. Our opponent might be a bit caught out if they try a Trinisphere at line as well. This hand is an interesting one. We have Island Ponder, but that needs to find us a land and they need to not have Chalice on 1. If they do have Chalice on 1, where are we going from there? Right, we can win without a Chalice, but we will need to draw mana. I think we do keep this, and we're hoping that our opponent doesn't Chalice for 1 on turn 1. Let's see what happens. Chalice for 1? Feels like a Chalice for 1. Sure, okay. So our Ponder is off now. But we have some of the things we need to win the game with here. A Scalding Tarn is quite a useful one. I think we'll play out on the basic island, or do we want the Scalding Tarn here? Scalding Tarn can represent blue mana, or it can represent red mana, but under a Blood Moon it's red mana anyway. I think we just get our basic island down. So we've kind of got a couple of blank cards in our hand right now. Rabble Master, sure. So we have a good answer for this. Take 1 this turn, and then we Pyroclasm it. Splinter Twin. Okay, so we're just working up to mana here. So we can either get a Volk here, because our opponent, the only way our opponent's going to mess with our mana base is with a Blood Moon, which shouldn't be in their deck at this point. So I think we just get a Volk here. It just gives us the most amount of flexibility with what we're trying to cast, in case things go a little bit pear-shaped later on. We only really need 1 blue pip. Right, we do need to Pyroclasm now, though. We can't try and get greedy and catch more creatures. I don't think that's a good way to approach this game. So if we just draw lands the next 2 turns, we win the game, I think. Our opponent's not going to have removal spells. Well, if they keep all their mana open, then we obviously don't go off. But if they're not playing things, we're also fine. So What does this look like? Sure, that's fine. This presents a reasonable clock. Okay, so there's a free card they can't do anything with. Wait, did they play a land this turn? No, they can play it. Yeah, because they played the subsequent last turn, yeah. So land this turn, land next turn would be nice. Okay. And I guess we pass the turn here. We have a choice of whether or not we Pestermite in combat to save ourselves some damage, or we Pestermite end a turn to try and dodge removal spells. I think we just prevent some damage here because we've got a second guy already anyway. Let's tap this guy down so we don't get attacked. They might be trying to rely on this to draw them some more action. We got a removal spell for our Pestermite. Caged Chaos Adventurer. Okay, that's leaving 1 mana up, which is not enough to kill Pestermite under a chalice. Okay. Although they can get a mountain here and play a land. Just trying to think what 2 mana spells they might have here. A Braid, potentially. Force of Will wouldn't help us here because we need the red land already. Okay, so we didn't draw it. Interesting. So we get to attack here. Let's get to initiative, which gets us our mountain, which I'm a fan of. This also means we're not taking damage on the attacks here. And then what are we doing after that? Probably a Deceiver Exarch turn, tapping down the Caged Chaos Adventurer. Or it might even be the Lalia, because this draws them a card. So it's more likely to draw them something annoying. And we have to kill next turn off the Splinter Twin. 2 cards in our opponent's hand. Would I rather they... Oh, looks like we're getting something pre-combat here. Den of the Bugbear being activated. Okay. So which of these is the most damage? So we play this out. We could just play a Snapcaster into play here. This is 4 damage, this is 5 damage. I think I want to stop them getting a card. I think that's more important to me, because this also grows as well. I think I'd rather stop them getting another card in case it's an answer to our guy. So this is going to give them a Rabble Master. Both of these do get them cards, to be fair, but this is going to grow. Is this just whenever it taps? Oh, okay, so it grows from the Caged Chaos Adventurer. Okay, my bad a little bit there. Okay. 5. I think we're just going to clean up a token here. We'd rather keep our Deceiver Exarch alive because it's the one that gives us the most damage. They get the most toughness to avoid damage from our opponent. Okay, they've gone for Forge. They're going to try and win the game next turn. Are they going to play the card or are they going to bluff something? Okay. They're just playing the Rabble Master. They're saying, do you have it? And we do. Force of Will would make me feel a little bit happier about this, but I'm pretty sure we have it here. I'm not sure what they can have for 0 mana here. We'll put it on the Exarch there. Red, red, 1, 2. They can't cast a 1-drop because of Chalice. Sure. Okay, so we got the match there. Don't mind if I do. Not a bad start to the league. I think this matchup is generally pretty good. Like back to basics, just shut them down in game 1 quite nicely. And they don't have a lot of ways of interacting with Deceiver Exarch. Now they can dead and gone stuff if they have a lot of mana up, but they maybe just want to hold up dead, but obviously they play their own Chalice, they can't really do that. So it just becomes quite easy for us to have our pieces and get them. And we get to win through a Chalice because the way we win the game isn't these 1-drops. These are just sort of a little bit of grease for the wheels and interaction. All right, let's go to round 2. We're on the play for this round. I can't keep this without any sort of cantrip. We've only got the 1 land. Let's mulligan. This seems fine. We got a decent chunk of interaction at our disposal here. And back to basics may or may not be good, but I think we can keep the back to basics and pitch it to a Force of Will if it's bad. So probably getting rid of the Force here. And we can start up with a Spell Pierce available. I think I'd rather have Spell Pierce than Lightning Bolt available on turn 1, because we can Lightning Bolt whatever we want on turn 2. Spell Pierce only works on the stack, so it's better just to have it up. Windswept Heath. What are we looking at from our opponent here? Savannah. Okay. A Noble Hierarch. Sure. This is something we can Lightning Bolt. Spell Pierce probably going to be going into Force of Will later. Right. So we have a choice here. We don't necessarily have to bolt the Noble Hierarch. We can try and bolt the thing that comes out of it. What they're sort of building to. But I think since we're trying to back to basics them in a few turns, we're just going to try and collapse their mana and maybe back to basics them out of the game. We've got some nice permission here. A Wasteland. That's not going to do any good against us, I'm afraid. Unless we draw those horrible Volcanic Islands. Esper Sentinel. I don't really care about Esper Sentinel. This is like the Maverick deck that I think won the event the other day. And that's not great. We kind of need another land here. But we have Force of Will plus Spell Pierce paying around the tax. which feels like a reasonable way to approach the game. Have they got a 3-drop that taps them out, and then we can draw it back to basics and just put the nails into them. Like, this is +1 damage, so we don't really care about that. We do need to draw some mana, or a cantrip. Cantrip's a little bit awkward, but it's fine. Deceiver Exarch. Okay, we're maybe just going to be stuck on these 2 lands for a while. Not exactly how I drew it up. Okay, a basic plains. This is making our back to basics look worse. We're already going to pitch 1 to the Force of Will. What is this? Something big. Yeah, I'm going to say no to this. We're going to pay. X equals 4. So that's probably Questing Beast. Alright, we're going to take 2 from this Sentinel. Like, this is a very slow clock that we don't really care about too much. But if we don't find something eventually, then we're going to be in trouble. So we can take out a bunch of our opponent's mana here, but we'll let our opponent draw a card. I think that's okay here. So this will get us... It might supposed to be the mountain here, because that way we can always cast our... Yeah, I think it is supposed to be the mountain. As weird as that sounds. Alright, our opponent gets a card here, but we do get to shut off 3 of their mana. If we have to use our Force of Will, they do get another card. But we've effectively 3-for-1 them here. They got 1 card, but they've lost 3 lands. They do still have 2 mana available, but we'll see what this comes out. Thalia. Thalia's fine. We can put Deceiver Exarch in and it kills it. So if it attacks on its own, we can just bounce off of it. So this isn't an issue for us. Sure. Take this little bit of damage here. What are we going to find? A Pestermite. Right. Are we tapping something down? If we tap it down right now, that's probably okay. Just remove their access to mana here. This is the one that gives them the most colours, so we're going to tap this down. Just stop them having access to anything exciting. Sure. Do we care about this plough? Well, we can't counterspell it because of our Force of Will there, but that's fine. We take 3 this turn. Whether they attack with both or 1, it's still 3. So we're looking for another mana source this turn, and then a Splinter Twin next turn. That would be the sort of dream scenario. Back to basics. That's not the one, is it? We're going to cast this now, and we're going to untap our thing so we can Force of Will. We do this now so there's no situation where they have mana available where they can plough it. If we wait till their turn, while this is on the stack trying to untap our thing, they can cast anything they want. And we won't have an interaction for it. Alright, so this is coming in for 3. That's fine. Opponent's got 2 cards in hand. Prismatic Vista. So that's one of the things we wanted. Now what? Is our Pestermite attacking? Probably not. This is 2, 3, 4 damage. 5. So I guess we are attacking ourselves here. I know, it seems weird to attack now. Like, this game isn't about life totals. It's about whether we can get our Splinter Twin off or not. Let's see what they have here. Tap some more permanents. Do we care about this permanent? Like, if we don't draw the thing, how dead are we next turn, is the question. I think we're very dead anyway. Let's counterspell this. And we will pay for both of these. So we're going to hold up our Prismatic Vista in case we draw a Brainstorm, because we can still draw into land and Splinter Twin. Our opponent looks like they're holding up a Swords to Plowshares, which is not the best of times for us. So this is going to be 4 damage, putting us to 3. And we're into chump block territory soon. So not a big fan of how this game is working out. I have 1 card in hand. If it Swords to Plowshares, it's going to be tricky for us to beat. Deceiver Exarch. Okay, this is actually quite a good card for us. We're not dead. We can chump. We can... So if they attack with just a Thalia, well, if they attack with everything, we can jump the Deceiver Exarch in and sort of go to town by blocking the Thalia. And that's pretty good. We probably do have to block with the Pestermite on a Esper Sentinel, though. Like, it's getting dicey, for sure. Another one of those, sure. I'm going to attack with everything or just the Thalia here. They've been attacking with everything up until now. So we will play this guy. So we can tap down their white source here. Swords to Plowshares targeting our Deceiver Exarch. Right, so you think we crack this. Let's go to 2. Wait. If we counterspell this, we go to 1. And then this blocks here, this blocks here. We take 1. If we let this die, we go to 3. This blocks here. I think we're just... Yeah, I think we're just dead either way here, aren't we? If we... Maybe we got greedy trying to nab this Thalia, but if they had the plough, they were always going to be able to get it. That's Prismatic Vista not just being a basic is going to cost us here. Because if we counterspell this, the force makes us go down to 1. And then they've got lethal blockers. Lethal attackers. Alright, sure. Now I think we should be reasonably okay in this matchup. We've got some Pyroblast and stuff. I think the Spellskite here is actually pretty reasonable. Maverick. Do you want this Brazen Borrower? It's a pretty good tempo swing. They're mainly trying to get us with removal rather than counter spells, so Misdirection is going to be pretty good to get a nice 2 for 2. Maybe it's the forces that go, because we're bringing these things in. How good is Spell Pierce going to be? On the play, I quite like Spell Pierce. Back to basics is going to be less good now that they know it's coming. So maybe that's not a thing we want to try and play around so much. So we could take these out and board in these forces. This seems alright. We've got a lot of like emergency valves here. I do like the Misdirection more than the Force of Will here, purely because if they're trying to plow our guy, we can at least make them plow their own guy. And that feels pretty strong to me. And they're not playing any sort of combo-y things or anything super scary that we just have to get off the board or make sure it doesn't hit the board. Okay, we can keep this. We have Island Ponder. I hear that's pretty good these days. Don't really want to live in a world where Island Ponder isn't good. Opponent's mulligan to 6 cards. They kept 6 cards. Okay. I think we will ponder on 1. All right. I like this selection of cards. So I guess we put Might, Mountain, Exarch. So if we can find another land, we've got a turn 4. Noble Hierarch, not very exciting. So we know one of the top cards of our library. Do we want to Brainstorm this turn? Or do we want to hold up a Spell Pierce for some sort of horrible Green Sun Zenith target? If we Brainstorm and we don't hit a blue land, that's pretty awkward for us. But we might hit something like a Lightning Bolt, and I think it's worth doing. Alright, pretty good. We can put back one of our mountains here, and the... Should we put back the mountain? Because we kind of want to fetch the mountain here. These are our only mountains. So if we put one back, the Vista kind of has to get it. So if we cast a blue spell, that's going to be awkward for us. Interesting. Interesting how that pans out. How likely are we going to want this Spell Pierce is the real question, I think. I think maybe the Snapcaster Mage can go. And then I guess we can put a mountain on top and just play the... We're kind of looking for a Force of Will here to back up our stuff. So we kind of want to shuffle. So we put this island back. Then our Prismatic Vista goes and gets an island. Yes, that works. And that will give us the Spell Pierce. A Dryad Arbor, sure. Is our opponent casting a 2-drop? Or are they just getting in for 1 here? Casting a 1/2 mana spell. Athalia. Sure, we'll crack this now. This is going to take an extra turn off of our clock. We're going to need more mana to eventually go off with this. But that's fine. Not ideal, but fine. Another Deceiver Exarch. So this can jump in the way of our opponent's Thalia here, which isn't that exciting. So we could tap down one of their things right now, but I think I'd rather just hold up the Spell Pierce in case we've got something coming in that way. I don't think we want to tap down the Thalia, we just use our Life Total Resource. Sure, so this is going to be coming in for a fair chunk here. Outland Liberator. That's an interesting one. Sure. Let me just cast this now. Pyroclasm off the top would be unbelievable. Let's tap down this Thalia so that we don't have to worry about the attack this turn. They'll be coming in for 4 potentially. So back over to us. A Ponder. I would like to cast a Ponder. And I think we cast them. We got a second mountain in hand, so. Okay, so there's the other land. Ooh. Shuffling Library, no. We'll play out Scalding Tarn here. This lets us Spell Pierce if we need to. They do have the Outland Liberator, which they can use to tap to blow up our Splinter Twin. So that's something we're going to have to deal with. We probably want to just keep the Spellskite on top. And we can deploy the Spellskite, which can deal with the Outland Liberator. Although if they don't play anything and this flips, then it just gets to eat stuff when it attacks. So that won't be so good for us. I guess we can tap it down, so it can't eat anything on attacks. And then we have the Spellskite to check it. So that's fine if we just draw the Spellskite next turn. A Noble Hierarch. Sure. We can use our Life Total as a resource this turn, take a big hit off the Thalia. This means this isn't going to flip, which is good. So I imagine it's the Thalia coming in because it's on the first strike, and they don't want to expose their Outland Liberator to anything. So this is a hit for 5, which is a reasonable chunk, but we can deal with that. And we are going to play a spell on our turn, which is nice. So now we have the Spellskite. Put our mountain. Play out this Spellskite. We'll crack this now just for an island while we're here. So, this isn't flipping this turn. So I have 1 activation of this plus 1 potential spell. I guess I can cast 2 spells under their Thalia, like 2 removal spells. But we're going to tap down one of their lands to make that more difficult for them. I think we've engineered ourselves into a reasonable spot here. If we draw a Pyroclasm next turn, we're going to use that instead of the Twin because it's just game over on this board far more than this, which could eat a spell if our opponent's got some mana open. We'll have to see what our opponent puzzles their way into or out of this turn. Alright, they're tapping mana. This is good for us. Well, I think it's pretty good for us. I think they attack with Athalia first here. They might have been going for a Green Sun Zenith for Collector Roof to shut down our Spellskite. We do have to take this. We're trying to use our Pestermite here as a way of keeping their mana down. Take the 5. They didn't do anything here. Interesting. Let's tap down their Noble Hierarch, I guess. I don't think they're going to have anything blue here. I think we're just going to tap down their Savannah. Another Deceiver Exarch. Okay. So this has flipped. Okay, I think we're on more Deceiver Exarchs, tapping down more things. Then we tap down the Frenzied Trap Breaker, and then we can throw something under the Thalia bus. What are we throwing under the Thalia bus is the question here. Probably the Pestermite, I think. Let's tap this down so it can't blow up our little guy. So this doesn't get to just eat our Spellskite for free now. We have a Spell Pierce as well here. They didn't do anything. They didn't attack with Athalia. That's really interesting to me. Please cast that spell we're going to cast. Alright. Fiend Artisan. So they have a Swords to Plowshares here. And a Frenzied Trappy thing. A Volcanic Island. Does this change anything? If we have one more mana, it does. If we play into this Swords to Plowshares that our opponent has clearly telegraphed for a long time by not committing other stuff to the board. We need one more mana to cast a Spell Pierce as well. So I think we're just on another Deceiver Exarch turn here. We've got guys to throw under the bus. The Fiend Artisan can go and find something like a Collector Roof, which is a little bit annoying for us. But they have to tap mana for that. Which then means that we've got other stuff going on. So here comes the Exarch. This little song and dance again. We want them to keep mana open for this activation. If we can draw another land, I think we can go. At any point we draw a Pyroclasm, we win the game as well. Because we get to kill all of these and just leave them with the Frenzied Trap Breaker, which is going to be pretty weak on this board. This is also why I'm probably going to put the Pestermite under the bus, given the chance, because this is going to die to the Pyroclasm anyway. Alright, keep playing some mana sources out. Tap one more thing. So cowardly. Oh, they're in there. A combat step, that's why. Thalia coming in? It's not coming in, that's so strange to me. They've got 3. Okay. So if we draw a land, we should be able to win. Depends what this finds. If this, what is this? X is 2. So this is going to be a Collector Roof. So our spell slot is going to get shut off. No, it's just a Noble Hierarch. Okay, so if we draw a land, we win. We did not draw a land. What are we supposed to do here? Every time they have more mana, it gets more annoying for us. It seems so obvious that if we just go for it, it's just going to end up with us getting killed. They've been playing this thing the whole time. Yeah. That's so annoying. Now we lose our Spellskite. Yeah, this is really awkward. Maybe we're supposed to go there. But it just feels like if we're going there, we're just getting hit by the Swords to Plowshares we know about. So this is going to attack this turn. It's going to be pretty large. And we're going to lose our little Spellskite. Poor little Spellskite. Just always yield to those for now. We're not winning this with regular damage, so the Pestermite can go under the bus here. A Lightning Bolt does kill this, if we can draw a Lightning Bolt. Pyroclasm kills all of these, apart from this. And we have so many ways of just pulling ahead. If we'd drawn a land on that last turn, I think we had it, but we didn't. I think we're right to just let our Spellskite die instead of just playing this Twin out. Pyroclasm. Lightning Bolts. Okay. I need to unyield to these triggers. So I need to... That was a mistake. How do I unyield to triggers? Turn off auto yields. No. We'll work that out in a second. Maybe we're just supposed to kill the Thalia though. And that gives us the best way of winning this game here. Yeah, I think that's fine. We can put one of these under the bus. Although we kind of... No, we do need to... in this awkward situation again. Okay, turn off the auto yields. So we get to blow this up. That's step 1. So we're not taking any damage this turn. We have 1 Spell Pierce available. Do we think our opponent has 1 Swords to Plowshares or 2 Swords to Plowshares? Maybe we'll find out now. If they tap down, only leaving 1 up, then that gives us some indication. Knight of the Reliquary. That's something we're probably going to have to worry about pretty soon. They have exactly the mana for 2 Swords to Plowshares. No, they only have mana for 1 Swords to Plowshares, actually. So this is lethal, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, we still need 1 more mana, don't we? Ho-hum. This is tough. Thalia is doing some real work here. I don't know what they can tutor up with Night of the Reliquary that scares us here. Probably Gaia's Cradle is pretty bad for us. Does that mean we're supposed to get rid of this Fiend Artisan? Maybe. I think we have to get rid of this Fiend Artisan response in case it's Cradle. Again, if we can draw the land, we can have the Spell Pierce up anyway. So now they can't... They can get a Cradle, which will help them, but won't let them just tutor for any creature out of their deck. Yep, so there's a Cradle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Need to be pretty quick with our clock here, because we have to win another game after this if we can win this one. Scrubland. But they can hardcast something scary if they have it, like an Atraxa here. It's pretty good. Can't really do anything about this. This could be a Green Sun Zenith for Atraxa, which we can at least interact with because we have these Spell Pierces. I don't think we can allow an Atraxa to hit play. This is 7 mana. This is Green Suns for Primeval Titan. Atraxa from hand is obviously pretty much GG's, I think. But we'll see. Green Sun Zenith X is 3. That's probably another Night of the Reliquary. I think we allow this one. They've got this mana floating in their pool, which I have to imagine they're trying to use for something else. Grist. Okay, that's not so bad. Short, create an insect. Now, if we can draw a Force of Will or a Misdirection, we can play that through the Thalia as well. Swords to Plowshares targeting our Deceiver Exarch. Okay, well we've got 2 more of them, so I don't mind seeing that. This guy is huge. It's going to be a 6 power guy. Do we take 6 here? What use is having 2 Deceiver Exarchs? If we draw Pyroclasm, having a second Exarch is pretty good here. Although Grist can go minus and do some real work on us pretty soon. I think we have to take this 6 here. Because we're going to have to chump block this Knight next turn. Maybe. What we really need to do is draw like a Misdirection or another land is at least something. A Ponder. So our opponent is representing Swords to Plowshares here. Do we Ponder? They can attack us with 2 lethal creatures next turn. Which means we probably have to go. But if we can Ponder into Pyroclasm, that's... Okay, this is a tough game. We're always just like 1 card away all the time. I think we any order and shuffle. That's not really the one, is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. We have to double chump block next turn, so I think we just have to go for it here. They are going to have the thing, and we're going to lose. If they don't have it, then they've absolutely ruined us this entire game. Well, we've already seen 1 plow, but here we go. Yeah, sure. Yeah, we needed one of several cards in our deck for a bunch of turns to win that game, and we just never hit it. So that is the problem when you play a deck like this. You sometimes just need certain little bits and pieces. Like that turn, because they had a 2-1, a 1-1, and a 5-5 coming at us next turn, we couldn't effectively block too well, I don't think, because we'd have to... I guess we wouldn't necessarily lose our Deceiver Exarch, but this ticks up to 5, and then we die on the following turn, so maybe we'd have got 1 more draw step. But yeah, it was just too hard playing around this. I'd be very happy to play against Maverick all day with this deck, but sometimes, like a good matchup, you're going to fall on the bad side of variance every now and then. Right, let's go to the next game. On the play here, we've got some stuff going on here. I would like some cantrips. We do have a lot of land. This is a very marginal one, but we do have interaction for creatures. We have interaction for non-creatures. So I think this is the low end of what is keepable here. We do have one of our combo pieces. Put his mulligan to 6 cards. I like keeping a hand with turn 1 interaction. I think we are just leading out on the island to avoid wasteland. As we said before, Lightning Bolt is something you could do after they play the thing where a Spell Pierce has to do it while it's on the stack. A Tundra, okay. That's usually a card in relatively fair decks. Okay, so we can play this Prismatic Vista out, I think, and that gives us access to red mana without exposing us to wasteland. It does expose us to Stifle, but we have more lands in hand, so we don't really mind about that. Any additional lands after 4 are probably going to be going into Brainstorms. Okay, and there's a Saga, that's fine. This looks like Shark still to me. Stoneforge Mystic. So this is something we can Lightning Bolt. So our opponent could be on Cephalid Breakfast. That's what I would imagine here. Crack this, get ourselves this. Lightning Bolt. This Stoneforge, yeah. Felt like they're F6 then. Interesting. I think we have to keep up the Spell Pierce here. We could have tapped down the Urza's Saga in response to the trigger so they don't get to make a token, but we don't really care too much about the token at the end of the day. A Brainstorm. That's fine. We could have played the Deceiver Exarch, untapped our island and Spell Pierce that. But I don't think that's where we want to be. Next turn we can play Deceiver Exarch holding up Spell Pierce. Possibly we could even draw a cantrip this game. That would be nice. A Splinter Twin. Okay, well we have a plan. Let's play out this Prismatic Vista. We don't have the ability to tap them off of Shuko combo this turn. Sure. Wizard Cycling. We can't counterspell this because it's of an ability, not a spell. They're just cycling it. So if we'd have played out Deceiver Exarch last turn, obviously we're playing it into stuff, but white mana on your upkeep. Interesting. Okay, our opponent clearly has the combo sewn up in their hand right now. So they're going to tap their Saga for mana here. They get a Shuko. A Cabal Therapy targeting us. Interesting. Let's get a mountain. So what we can do here is we can Spell Pierce this. And if they pay, then they won't be able to combo. So this basically makes it seem like we have a Force of Will in hand or something. If they pay, they're not going to name the things in our hand right now. But they might end up playing a creature so that they can flash it back. Are they just going to play right into it? They tap white mana, not blue here. Was that a mistake? Orim's Chant. Interesting. So they haven't played a land yet this turn. If they have a land, us playing Deceiver Exarch doesn't do anything. I'm just going to assume they have it here, rather than giving them the information yet. So there's the land. Here's the Illusionist. Yeah. And then they're going to mill themselves. So we're going to let them mill themselves just so we can see their deck. And then we will concede the game once we've seen their deck, just to get a little bit of information here. So if you're unfamiliar with this combo, they equip Shuko to Cephalid Illusionist. So Cephalid Illusionist's triggered ability happens, which mills them for 3. They repeat this until their deck is in the graveyard. Narcomoebas will jump out. They will sacrifice them to Dread Return to get back the Thassa's Oracle. If Thassa's Oracle is in their hand, they can then Cabal Therapy themselves to put it in the graveyard. Same with the Dread Return. We will concede before they see our hand. We don't want them to see what our combo is. Alright, so Pyroblast is going to be good here. This doesn't really work against Nomads because they just get you with it. We want Meltdowns for the as a Saga beatdown plan. I quite like these extractions. Pyroclasm is good if they're just trying to stick stuff. I think we are the control in this matchup, is what I've decreed here. So I don't think we want Misdirection. I don't think Brazen Borrower is good as our just kill spells here. Spell Pierce doesn't actually really interact with their combo very well, so we can get rid of that one. Back to basics is fine because they're the Esper build. I think we can trim back on our combo a little bit here. Maybe take out, probably just take out one Deceiver Exarch, one Pestermite here. We still got 4 things to find. Yikes. Are we boarding too heavily is the question then, isn't it? Snapcaster is a bit of a later game thing, but I think that's fine. Impulse is going to be a little bit slow potentially. Can take out Snapcaster, trim a Ponder. Maybe we don't need all of these back to basics. Let's try it like this. We just got a lot of removal spells. Null Rod does stop Shuko, but I don't think that's good enough. I think Meltdown is better because it also catches the Saga tokens, which can randomly beat us down. Okay, we can keep this one. So this will get us a basic island. We'll cast a Ponder. How do we feel about these cards? I like the Ponder. I don't think we need the others. So I guess we'll put the Vista on top and then the Ponder. So we have more choice of blue cards. Excuse me. So next time we can crack a Vista and then cast a Ponder. A Nomads. Sure. That's not the one we necessarily have to fight over. So I know one of the top cards of our library. We can Ponder first, or we can crack this and then cast a Brainstorm. Or we can crack this and then cast a Ponder, just to see more cards. We don't necessarily know what land we want to get, so I think I would rather Ponder here. Even though we know one of the cards. Okay, put this on top. We'll keep... kind of want all of these cards really, but I think we'll have Pyroblast for this turn. And then... yeah, I wish we'd have cast a Brainstorm then. I think Pyroblast is going to be the more important thing than the Surgical, because quite often by the time you try and get them with Surgical, it's game over. But we'll see what we've got going here. We know our opponent is running Daze as well. A Shuko. That's fine. Sure. The 2-1 beats. So now we can draw this Surgical Extraction. And just have more redundancy for the combo. Okay. So we know one of the cards on top of our library is Snapcaster Mage, which is now looking quite a good card. So I'm going to cast this Meltdown. No, sorry, that's Meltdown. This Brainstorm. I don't know if we even want this Deceiver Exarch anymore. Like, I think we're probably just going to win this game with, like, Snapcaster stuff. But maybe Deceiver Exarch can be useful down the line. I don't know if I want this Meltdown yet. I think I'll put Meltdown on top and then Scalding Tarn. And then we can decide what we're doing afterwards. Sure, seems fine to me. We can take hits from this for a while. That's not a problem. An Archimedes. Okay, we're on the mediocre men beatdown. So we do have Pyroclasms in our deck. Do we want this land on top of our library or not? I think we do because we want to cast a back to basics this turn. Volcanic Island. This one gets us a mountain. This one gets us a mountain as well. 1, 2, 3. I don't want to fight over this back to basics. But if our opponent wants the Force of Will for this, sure, I'll take a 2-for-1. Hydroblast. Okay. Again, our opponent's board is not scary for us right now. We have Force of Will, Surgical Extraction, and Pyroblast. So we have a bunch of options here. If we can put a Cephalid Illusionist into the graveyard, we can then Surgically Extract it. This might get them a basic now they've seen the back to basics. We can take the damage here. We can put in the Deceiver Exarch next turn to block if we want to. Let's see what happens here. Teferi Time Raveler. This is one I would like to fight over. This is a card that is absolutely backbreaking for us. So that has to go. Okay, another Pyroblast is a very good draw. And then we just pass the turn here. I think we just gobble one of these up now, if possible. And we're going to tap them off of white, so they can't cast Teferi in second main. A Brainstorm. That's fine. Our Pyroblast is pointed at Teferi or Cephalid Illusionist. Those are the things we care about. Our opponent might have also switched into, oh crap, our opponent might be comboing us in a second as well. We're not really at that stage. We're in the grind them out with Snapcaster value. Just tap down this Tundra. It cuts them off of white mana as well, so if we do draw the thing, we might just be able to go for it. Go to blocks. This can block here. What they can do is they can ping the damage on the Narcomoeba if they want to keep their guy alive. They did not want to. They would rather keep this flying guy. Makes sense. Shuko on that? Sure. Splinter Twin. We have Force of Will. Is that good enough? I think we can surgically extract our opponent's Force of Will and see if that's where we want to be. We will take these Force of Wills. We'll also see how our opponent is sideboarded. There they are, just on what I would expect here. Our turn to do a silly combo. Alright, that went pretty well for us. I think we sign up the same plan. Teferi is a real pain though. But I think this is fine. Do you want Spell Pierce just to kill Teferi? That's certainly a possibility. Teferi is so backbreaking for us, just as a card. But where would we put these? Maybe the back to basics. Now they know it's coming, they're probably going to play around it a bit better. So we'll have this Spell Pierce. Now they know what we're doing, things are a little bit different. I don't think this hand interacts in the right ways. Then we can do better. Okay, I like this one a bit better. That last hand was pretty okay-ish as well. So maybe I was a bit hasty throwing it away, but I like this one a little bit more. We'll put out the Scalding Tarn. We don't want to crack it, but we might need Spell Pierce or we might need Lightning Bolt. And this is the only way we can make sure that happens. But ideally, we'd like to just have a Brainstorm next turn. We don't have back to basics in our deck anymore, so it doesn't really matter if we get a Volcanic with this. It's just a case of I'd like to have a shuffle off our Brainstorm. What is this? A Stoneforge Mystic. Sure. Just going to get Cauldra or Shuko. Cauldra, sure. I think end of turn, we'll go and get this Volcanic and Lightning Bolt this guy. Sure. Right, so now we've got an island. We've got Emergency Brainstorm if we need it. We do have Lightning Bolt though. Nomads plus Cephalid Illusionist is going to be very hard for us to beat. If we play the Nomads out first, we have to bolt the Nomads. I think this is one of those times where we're casting an end of turn Brainstorm for mana efficiency because we need to have so much mana up in our opponent's turn. We do not want all of these things. I think we'll put back Island and Mountain. And we'll pass the turn. So this can go and get them a Shuko. Shuko we can beat with Lightning Bolt, potentially. But we can't beat Nomads. Sure, we can beat these eventually. We don't have to worry about them too much right now. A Brainstorm in response to their as a Saga trigger. That's an interesting one. They're doing it as a free shuffle, which is pretty cool. You don't see it very often, but it's another piece of utility you can get from this completely busted as a Saga card, which is a great addition to Legacy in my opinion, because it opens up all sorts of things and it gives non-blue decks something that's blue deck power level. Obviously blue decks are running it as well, but such is life. Alright, so tapping over this. We have to crack this in response just in case we get Pithing Needle. We don't want to get stuck with one of those. Let's play this. Put this island into play. Go ahead. A Shuko. Okay, so Shuko we can beat if they play the Illusionist. Potentially. We can beat Force of Will and Daze. We can't beat 2 Force of Wills. Have another trigger for your Cephalid Illusionist. Okay. So we survived a turn there. And we get hit for 3 with the Construct. That's fine. This is a 3-2, so our Snapcaster Mage can jump in front of it later and trade off if we have to Lightning Bolt again. So we can do Snapcaster Lightning Bolt with Spell Pierce backup, which beats Force of Will but doesn't beat Daze and Force of Will. I think we are just playing out this Volcanic Island. If our opponent gives us the opportunity to Brainstorm at end of turn, I will. But at the moment, this guy is on Lightning Bolt duty. The more mana our opponent has, the worse our Spell Pierce is going to get. They can attack first to try and bait us into action, which is smart. A Ponder, okay. That could still find them a Cephalid Illusionist. They shuffle their library, okay. There's a Cephalid Illusionist. We will cast Snapcaster Mage. We will target Lightning Bolt. We will cast Lightning Bolt on this Cephalid Illusionist. We have 1 piece of interaction to fight with here. And now we have a guy that can block the Construct. Our opponent might just have like nothing but Cephalid Illusionists. Deceiver Exarch. Does that change anything here? Don't think so. Do we want to keep lands in hand? I think we want to play 1 land out for the purposes of Daze here. We don't really have a good option to tap things down here. We could tap down their white source, but I don't think that's going to get us anywhere. A Ponder. We can't hit the Cephalid Illusionist with this, so I think we are hitting the Ponder with this. If they want to pay their mana, that means they're not killing us this turn. Okay, they got another Illusionist. Sometimes your opponent will have 3 Cephalid Illusionists. Yeah, sure. So we had a bunch of stuff, like we needed to draw things that weren't land really there. I think this matchup is okay. Again, like, it took our opponent to have a draw of triple Cephalid Illusionist here to beat us. Now, to be fair to our opponent, if they'd have had a Nomads instead of the Shuko, then we would have to bolt the Nomads, but then I guess it's off the board. So it's kind of a bit tricky, but because then they could just top deck anything into the Illusionist. But I think we're a little bit unlucky there, but it's okay. The Breakfast deck is very strong. And we were pretty close. We just needed to not have them draw triple Illusionist. Alright, on to round 4. Aha, our opponent is the Daddy. So that's some relatively useful information for us. We would like a better hand than this, I think. Our opponent usually plays Dredge. This hand doesn't really do anything. This hand is okay. We have multiple lands. We can keep this. So 2 of these cards have got to go. So probably losing a Borrower and... Is it the Borrower or is it... I think it's the Borrower. And this. So we can Force of Will or Lion's Eye Diamond. Faithless Looting. Then we hit this one. If we don't do this, we don't get an opportunity to act. Our opponent could have baited us and they have a Lion's Eye Diamond here and we lose. Okay, Lotus Petal. Right, so now we've got an island. We can Spell Pierce away a Flashback Faithless Looting if that's a thing that they're going to do this turn. Alright. Our opponent's got 2 cards in hand. So a long way up to regular draw and discard. We just need lands and we have the win now. Our opponent obviously is a deck full of discard in the form of Cabal Therapy, and they flip their graveyard, their library. Sorry, our opponent's on Dredge, just in case I didn't make that clear. Cabal Therapy, this is not going to hit unless they're targeting themselves. Yeah, they're targeting themselves. This is going to put Dredger in their graveyard. Golgari Thug and Narcomoeba, sure. I think we outpace the Golgari Thug potentially. We didn't draw a land, so that's pretty bad for us. The Cabal Therapy is not going to hit us, the first one, but we have to dodge another one. Okay, so next turn they can get an Ichorid back and get some bridge triggers. Our opponent's life total doesn't actually matter in this matchup. Okay, they're just playing out the Thug just to beat down with. They didn't hit another Dredger though. They can just Cabal Therapy here. This is how they're going to get in their graveyard. They're targeting us. This is not going to... They're not going to name the right thing. Unless they randomly saw what I posted on Twitter a minute ago, which might have been foolish. Brainstorm, sure. Land? We got a land here. Okay. We need a red source off the top here. You can have an Ichorid. That's fine by me. You did not hit a thing. So we are live for getting our stuff together as long as we can find a land here. We can just take the 2 here. I guess there's no reason not to take to actually take the 2 here, to be honest. Let's cut this for a basic mountain. Land off the top, please. A red land. There we go. Let's go and get some basic mountain. Create a copy. Okay. So what I do is make copies, target this, and we go. It's not actually that bad online because you get to choose save targets, so you can just keep clicking it and spamming it. Actually, no, I don't think you do get to choose same targets, right? Because it's a different object, actually. So you might have to click through it the whole time. People usually concede, though. Right, so we got game 1 off Dredge, which is great, to be honest. Surgical Extractions, these do things. Pyroclasm can clean up a bunch of zombies, so I like that. Brazen Borrower can get rid of a Hogak, so that's pretty nice. Pyroblasts can stop some of their things, but not all of them. So these are things I'm thinking about. Misdirection here seems basically unplayable. Back to basics doesn't seem great. Snapcasters are great because they allow us to send a guy and just jump in the way of a zombie and remove their bridges that way. I think winning the game is going to be an afterthought for the most part here, but maybe we get to a situation where we kind of have to win. I like Lightning Bolt. We can target our own creatures. We want to keep our Pestermites in over Deceiver Exarch here because they're easier to kill. Ponders, I guess we don't want as many Ponders. It's as awful as that sounds. We're just trying to get in with these bits and pieces here. We get to keep one of these in, don't we? Or would we rather have another Deceiver Exarch so at least we have more I win buttons? Yeah, we'll give that a go. Well, we could have brought in the Hydroblast as well for the Faithless Looting. But hitting Careful Study, their bounce spells, and the... they've begun the game with 7 card now, so probably dead here. So yeah, so the Pyroblast hits Breakthrough, it hits Careful Study, it hits Chain of Vapor, so it does just hit more things. We have to counterspell this. This is the most broken card in their deck. Sure. So this is bad for us, but if they have Lion's Eye Diamond as well, then it's game over for us. So at least we've bought ourselves another turn. They have 2 dredges in there, so we can't actually get a Surgical Extraction going. I think we are just on the hold up the Brainstorm here and hope for the best. This game is certainly better for us on the draw. The fact that we managed to win a game 1 is really important. Triple Ichorid, okay. That's something that I wouldn't mind exiling if possible. Right, now we cast a Brainstorm. Snapcaster Mage, that's something that we can jump in front of things with later. We have a whole bunch of lands that we don't need here, so we'll put these 2 on top. And then we can play out this Scalding Tarn. We can crack it now, I guess, for Volcanic. And I would like to Brainstorm now, just in case we find a Surgical, so we can get rid of these Ichorids. We did not find that. Okay. We'll put this land and then this Twin. Alright, so we're going to take 9 this turn, so that's half our life total. Actually, no, we're not going to take 9 because I don't have enough black creatures. Just going to take the 6. Just a casual 6. Narcomoeba. No Cabal Therapies yet, which is good for us. They're casting a Hogak from hand. That's not great, but we can deal with that. Maybe. We have these Brazen Borrowers in for it. They don't have Bridge from Belows. So we know one of the cards on top of our library. I think we still... It is a land. I just don't want to Brainstorm lock ourselves. So we're just going to cast this Brainstorm now. Lightning Bolt. That definitely plays here. We can put this and this other island back, I guess. Then we can play out an island. Oh, we've already played our land for 10, haven't we? It's now for a red source. That way we've got double red. Our tappy guys against the Hogak are pretty good as well. Our opponent doesn't have any dredges. So we're in a not terrible spot. We're not in a great spot either, let it be known. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So they can hit us at 12 this turn. But we can Lightning Bolt the Ichorid if we want. They did not bring the Ichorid back. Interesting. They have to take a regular draw this turn. It's pretty good for us. 8 and 8 is 16. So we are supposed to Lightning Bolt this Narcomoeba. It effectively buys us a turn, potentially. Because we can put a guy under the bus for the Ichorid. Don't like that play. We can always Snapcaster and Bolt itself to get rid of bridges. Faithless Looting. Sure. Alright. Here goes nothing, I suppose. We can tap down their Hogak. Block their Ichorid. We basically need them to not hit a Cabal Therapy on this dredge. They did not hit a Cabal Therapy. Okay, we might be able to win this game. They could have Firestorm, but I would still block here. No bridges either, so that's good. A Cabal Therapy. So this is going to name Splinter Twin, unfortunately. This is going to bring back the Ox of Agonis. We don't really have a way of playing around that, because if we don't play this, they're attacking with both of them, and then we have to play this just to block this to survive. Right, little Ox, what are you going to do to us? Discard your hand. Dredge a whole bunch. So we're probably losing our Snapcaster Mage as well. I think this game is over. We were very close. So we lose our Snapcaster Mage and we draw Splinter Twin off the top and our opponent gets annoyed, because that would be very lucky of us. And they replay the Hogak that they discarded, that they sacrificed for the thing. Yeah. And if they've got any other Cabal Therapies, they can just do this and make loads of guys this turn. So basically saying we need to draw a Splinter Twin this turn. It's certainly possible, but they have more than enough damage. They probably want to tap their Ox as well to pay for this. No? Okay. Not that it really matters at this point. Yeah, you got many, many bridge tokens there, opponent. What have you got for us, deck? So my turn to draw 3 of my combo card. So my opponent did it to me last game? No. Okay, so what does Snapcaster into Brainstorm achieve? Nothing. Snapcaster into Brainstorm, finding Engineered Explosives still doesn't do it because we don't have the mana to crack it. Nope, I think we're just dead here. Alright. Do I want Hydroblast for their little thing? I don't think we do. I think we're just fine as is. I think this matchup is alright. We have a lot of matchups that are alright and we have some that are just miserable. Like the control decks. The blue-white Teferi control decks are not what I would describe as winnable. Okay, so we can keep this hand. We can lead out on Volk because our opponent doesn't disrupt our mana base. We can Spell Pierce something. We just need to find a red mana source by the time we hit turn 4. And survive that long, which isn't always the easiest thing. But we do have 2 pieces of interaction. Nothing from our opponent there. Interesting. Okay, that's not what we needed. A Grief. This is something we can't interact with what we have in our hand, which is pretty annoying for us. So probably lose the Exarch or the Twin here. I think they can probably play through our Spell Pierce Pyroblast. Maybe I'm wrong. Like, this clock's quicker than what they're doing right now. Yeah, okay. A Lion's Eye Diamond. We do have to Spell Pierce this, but they can pay for it. Then what? I guess we have to let this resolve, annoyingly. A Narcomoeba, that's fine. Not fine, but it'll do. Scalding Tarn. So we found our other red source. I don't think we play it out, because then our opponent knows what we have in hand. And we pass the turn. They might... Okay, they didn't do Lion's Eye Diamond in a turn. Our opponent's hand is an interesting one, but they are the Dredge Master, so... A breakthrough. The fact that they're not cracking this in response is really interesting to me. We're going to tap down their Cephalic Colosseum right now, so they can't activate it this turn. Now the other option we have is Pyroblasting there, but then we give them access to a load of stuff. Alright, so this is just an empty hand now. Cabal Therapy. They're going to name Splinter Twin, I think. Yeah, sure. We don't have it. We still don't have it. We'll play the Scalding Tarn now they know it's there. They have an Ichorid, so we'll leave our guy on blocks. Our opponent gets to draw a bunch of cards here. Maybe we're supposed to have Pyroblasted there, but they have the Lion's Eye Diamond, so discarding their hand is something they can do anyway. Alright, so we've got 2 Narcomoeba triggers there. Alright. How many bridges do we have here? 1 bridge from below, 2 bridges from below. Sure. We have the Pyroclasm to clean stuff up. Cabal Therapy targeting us. How many Cabal Therapies have we got in the graveyard right now? Interesting. We can force them to crack this Lion's Eye Diamond, maybe. This is one of the things they would name anyway, so They're just doing it to get zombies. That's all they're interested in here. Yeah. If that resolves, they take our Spell Pierce and we don't get to hit this anyway. We at least protect the information that we have of Pyroclasm. Sure, they get all these zombies. We do get to sweep them up in a sec. Because they only have one Cabal Therapy, I think. Let's pop their graveyard out this way and have a better look. I think this is the only Cabal Therapy they have left. It is late at night. And my eyes are not the best in the world. Let's see what they name here. They're going to name the thing we have, maybe? Or they might name Pyroclasm knowing that we have it. Brainstorm, sure. We don't know the top card of our library, so there's no point shuffling this. Surgical Extraction. Okay. Red and 1. Let's surgically extract you. Let's kill all your things. What are we going to surgically extract here? How many Narcomoebas have gone? 1 Narcomoeba's gone, 2 Narcomoeba's gone, 3 Narcomoebas have gone. If we get rid of the Icarids, how do they get back? They have the Oxyvagonus as well. Interesting. Can't get rid of all the dredges. The Oxyvagonus becomes a little bit of a liability. If we get rid of bridges, then we're still going to get beat down by how many Icarids? 1 Icarid, 2 Icarid, 3 Icarid. I think we just get rid of the Icarids here. I think that's the correct play. I hope I didn't just misclick there. I did not. 1 Icarid, 2 Icarid, 3 Icarid. There's none left in their deck. This is what's left in their deck. The Hogak is not a thing they can cast anymore. There is 1 Narcomoeba. They have a Memory's Journey, which is an interesting one. So they can put the Narcomoebas back in. That's cool tech. I think we keep the island for the purposes of Brainstorm here. We're not going to get attacked for hasty damage this turn, so we get our 1 point of damage in case that's how this game ends up going. This is just going to be Oxyvagonus, as we expected. Is this a mandatory trigger? Yes. Okay. But they know they have a Memory's Journey that they can fire off in their upkeep, although we have the Pyroblast for it. But again, they have the Cabal Therapy, so they can take our Pyroblast and then get a load of bridge tokens. Yeah, this is a tough game, this one. Snapcaster Mage, pretty good here. Another Pyroclasm, pretty good. I found the Narcomoeba. There's the Memory's Journey. They're Cabal Therapying us here. We can Pyroblast away our Deceiver Exarch to remove their bridge triggers. Then our opponent has this 5/3 to beat down with over several turns. This is a tough choice here. If we draw Splinter, we've already gone through 1 Splinter Twin. I think we're supposed to kill our own guy and stop them getting bridge triggers here. And that's us done for the turn. Okay, so we have to beat this Oxyvagonus and the Narcomoebas. We thankfully did not draw this thing. So if we want to Brainstorm, we're going to want this anyway, so we'll put this into play. This allows us to hard cast and force order if that's the thing we want to do. This game has gone really weird, and I like it. Sure, Golgari Thug. Take 5. A Spell Pierce. That's not the one. It stops this Memory's Journey, which might be enough. 5, we take 6 here. And then they kill us next turn. So if we can find a kill spell for this. If we can find a Lightning Bolt. A Golgari Thug. Yeah, so we need a Lightning Bolt. Or a Snapcaster Mage. Or any creature. Impulse. Let's Impulse. We found the Lightning Bolt. Any order's fine here. So we Lightning Bolt this guy now. Do we need to play this island out? I don't think we do. We want to hold it for Brainstorm in case something goes wrong here. So we have a counterspell for Memory's Journey. So our opponent will deck soon. They get 1 attack for 2 damage here. This game is incredible. Proper nonsense, and I love it. Memory's Journey. Cast Spell Pierce. Just exiles this as well. We saw they only had the 1 Memory's Journey as well, so they come in for 2 here. They come in for, and they don't get to attack again. Yeah, our opponent was just telling us they made 2 critical errors in that game. One of them was not casting Hogak last turn, which they could have done off of the Thugs, and the other one was not playing the LED before they cast the Memory's Journey. We probably could have worked out they had the Memory's Journey in hand. Sorry, the LED in hand actually. But yeah, okay, we played a little bit better. Our opponent is, I know our opponent is also a UK player, and it's 10 past 1 in the morning here. So the fatigue of clicking through a lot of stuff with Dredge is certainly one that I can appreciate. So, happens the best of us, especially at 10 past 1 in the morning. And Daddy is very much the best of us when it comes to Dredge players. He's one of my Modo heroes. Anyway, so we're 2-2 going into the final round, trying to hit a 3-2 record. Let's go. We're into the final round. We have a Brainstorm. We have explosives. A Snapcaster Mage. The hand is okay. And then we can keep this and try not to get bodied by a turn 1 combo deck. Our opponent's mulligan to 6 cards. Then we'll play our island, so we have the threat of counter spells at least, and we can also emergency brainstorm if something really bad happens, which is not something I would like to do. But sometimes. Okay, Street Wraith. This usually means that our opponent's on something like Death Shadow, which is going to be tough because their whole thing is discard and counter spells. We're trying to assemble a combo. They also have Wastelands, which normally wouldn't be a problem, but we do have this horrible Volcanic Island, which I did mention was one of the worst cards in the deck. Right, let's see how bad it is from our opponent over there. And nothing. Interesting. I don't really want to play this Brainstorm out until I have a fetch land, ideally. So I get a lot of value for it that way. Okay, we'll play out this Volcanic Island. If they Wasteland it, we'll probably Brainstorm off of it. Our opponent still isn't doing anything. This might just be an end of turn Brainstorm from them right now. Watery Grave. There's a Death Shadow confirmation. We expected it off of the Street Wraith, though. There's a Brainstorm. Are they going to crack it, or are they still have... Okay. Wow, okay. So they liked all of the cards, pretty much. Okay, there's the Wasteland. We will cast a Brainstorm in response. I think we would like to hide a Splinter Twin and another Splinter Twin, I guess. We prefer to not lose this Ponder. We might be getting Thoughtseize this turn, but we can hide a decent chunk of information. A Death Shadow. How big is this? A 1/1. Okay, that's fine. I think we can relatively reliably kill this with a Lightning Bolt. I don't think this is something they're going to fight over either. Let me just let it go. Like, this Lightning Bolt isn't getting any better either, so... They have one Street Race. This is still not big enough. A Force of Will. Wowzers. Pitch in a daze. Okay, understood. So, we don't want this second one on top of our library, so I think we play this one out. We crack this for an island. I think we cast a Ponder. We haven't taken any damage yet, so we don't need to play out this explosive just yet. Interesting. I really tried hard to keep that alive. I'd rather have a Force of Will here or a Lightning Bolt. I think we can just take the hit from this guy, right? So if we put Bolt on top... Actually, no, because we want the Force of Will for the protection turn, don't we? So we put Force of Will, then the Exarch, then the Bolt. We say no to the shuffle and draw this. We don't play out our Volcanic Island because it can just get wastelanded. Do we play out this explosives? Or I think we just see if they want to fight over this now. Again, they seemed really adamant they didn't want that to go. I'd rather not get hit by a Thoughtseize now, but if they had a Thoughtseize, they would have fired it off earlier. Doesn't mean they can't draw one right now. Every time. Sure. So we're going to lose our Splinter Twin or the Snapcaster, I think, here. Could be the explosives if they got more Death Shadows, but I imagine it's the weird card that says you're going to win the game on it. So that's probably the one that's going. We took the Snapcaster Mage. Interesting. That means they might have something like a Snuff Out. So our combo might not be very easy to execute. That also cuts us off of a blue card for our combo. Again, we're not going to play out this Volcanic Island. We know the top card of our library is Force of Will. I think we probably, because of Snuff Out, we might just be waiting for another blue card before we deploy our Deceiver Exarch, just so we can guarantee at least playing around a Snuff Out. Because surely if you Thoughtseize and you see the Splinter Twin there, you're going to take it, because that's the thing that just wins the game. Maybe I'm applying metrics differently to my opponent, but I think that's worth doing. And then this turn, if something really scary happens, we do have an emergency Force of Will. We're not going to play out our Volcanic Island for reasons mentioned before. So our opponent's turn. They're cracking. This could be a Murktide Regent turn, which is not great, but we can live with it. If we can draw a blue card, we can tap this guy down so we don't take damage from it, or we can just take the hit and then tap something else down afterwards. And then try and combo the turn after with Force of Will back up. Our opponent has relatively telegraphed something. Do I think our opponent has any interaction with us? I think we can afford to try and draw a blue card here. We did not draw a blue card. We did draw a basic though. This time we can play around days, so I think we might have to tap down the Murktide Regent and go for it, or we can try and fade one more draw and then tap down the Murktide Regent next turn. I think that's also fine. A Ponder. Our opponent has sculpted their hands so well. Let's see if they shuffle on this one or not. They shuffled. Okay, that's good. A Brainstorm. Okay. And a Wasteland. We could try and tap down. I think we'll crack this now just so we can play around Daze more easily. So we could try and tap down their Watery Grave now. Playing around a Daze. But Fatal Push is already live. I think we just have to go and try and draw a blue card this turn and have a bit of interaction. We did not draw a blue card. Okay. Getting punished pretty bad there. We'll play this basic island. Our opponent doesn't have any direct damage, so we're going to take the 8. Now, we can either try and tap it down next turn, so we can have one more draw to try and find a blue card, which I think I'm going to do because we really need... I'll play out this Volcanic Island, see if we can bait the Wasteland. This game is not going to be about that card, so... Our opponent is in a pretty good spot here. We just try and get that Wasteland off to constrict our opponent's mana. This guy has to resolve. We'll tap down this Murktide region. If they get greedy and try and kill our guy when we put the thing on it, we might have a chance of drawing a blue card here. Who needs blue cards, right? Not me, apparently. 1, 2, 3, 4. Snuff out. There's the snuff out. Interesting. Our opponent is on 4 life, effectively 1. So what we want is our opponent to play a fetch land and crack it so they can hold up Force of Will. We don't actually have the red source here, do we? I was going to show ourselves a door with a lightning bolt. Okay, so this matchup is going to be a little bit tricky. I like Pyroblast, obviously. I like Brazen Borrower here. I don't really think much else is particularly interesting to me. Explosives kills their 1-drop. Bolt actually isn't very good in this matchup, even though it did some things. Back to Basics, on the other hand, is excellent. I think we're just swapping around like this. The window of killing... So they can just play around Lightning Bolt very easily now. It's just like a relatively clean swap. We could bring in Spellskite for the snuff out, but I think our plan is going to be more along the lines of back to basicsing our opponent out of the game here. It's going to be tough. On the play. Not liking this Volcanic Island. Pretty bad versus the old Wasteland. We don't have any cantrips. I don't like it, but I'm going to keep it. I think the power of this hand is pretty good. We've got an answer to the Death Shadow. We've got 2 blue things. We've got a nice bit of interaction. Oh, our opponent's mulled to 5. That's pretty good for us. We're going to lead out on a Prismatic Vista. Hopefully we won't have to crack it, but we have the option for a Pyroblast if needed. Again, I don't think we're going to crack off this to hit a cantrip here. I think we're just going to save it for fighting over stuff. Stops a Murktide, which can buy us multiple turns. That's back over to us. They shuffled off their Ponder, so that's good news. An island. This is actually something I'm very happy to see. We are sort of just slowly working our way into a win, perhaps. Opponent doesn't have a follow-up. That's good. Probably got a lot of snuff outs to wade through, though. Another island. Also happy to see this one. I don't think we snap our stuff off here. Although we could tap out their Watery Grave this turn. Oh, yeah, I'm down for that. We'll play the one that has the higher power, just for the purpose of beating down. The old 3-mana Richard and Port. Sure, so found a land there. We're not just going to throw out our combo straight away. That feels foolish. We've got this land though, so that's something. Tap this. Don't really want to play this Deceiver Exarch out because I'd like to keep hold of a blue card in case we draw a Force of Will. Feels like it might be quite necessary. Black, black. Him to Turak, you say. Can we let it hit? Yep, they hit good. We still have the Pyroblast though. Attacking now is a little riskier. But a snuff out on that guy. Okay, opponent. Understood. We have the Pyroblast for the Murktide, so I don't want to tap one of these lands down. Sure, you can cycle that. Okay, so they have the Murktide here. It's Pyroblast. They've got a grip full of stuff to fight it with. Force this through. A Force of Will. Okay. We'll go and get ourselves a mountain, I think, here. We just cast this now, so we can just go to the end of turn. That Him to Turak was pretty good. A Daze. Interesting. We cannot pay. Sure. I really had the fear there. It's good. Ooh. I don't think we play this out because we can play around days. I think this is, we just take the damage from the Murktide here. Use our life total as a resource, maybe make our opponent tap some stuff. We know our opponent's got a land in hand and 2 other cards. Like, if they've just got more interaction and we lose, then fair enough. Sometimes it happens. I don't want to play our guy now and give them an opportunity to ponder into whatever. Like, they're going to ponder anyway, but at least they're tapping mana, so we might be able to do something here. They chose not to shuffle. Not a fan of that very much. Let's tap down your Underground Sea. Unfortunately, Snuff Out doesn't cost any mana. Another Deceiver Exarch. Play our land first. Red, red, blue. Let's try it. They have the Snuff Out. Pretty awkward. 0 mana kill spells. I had 2 of them this game, I think. Yeah, pretty awkward. Good multi-5 though. Death Shadow deck's pretty resilient. Him to Turak. Okay. Sure, our opponent has ripped pretty well. Not a great outing so far for us. So we can do tap guy into twin still. No, we're just dead. Blah. So we finished that league with a 2-3. I feel we fell a little bit on the wrong side of variance a couple of times. Like, we played that Maverick deck, which seems like years ago at this point. We had so many turns of drawing one of a bunch of cards, just immediately wins us the game, basically, and we just didn't find them. So that was a bit unfortunate, but again, it happens. Magic would be a bad game if variance wasn't a thing at the end of the day. So, and obviously in that last game, our opponent had a pretty stacked hand there, which was a bit awkward. And we had the Cephalid Breakfast game where they happened to have triple Cephalid Illusionist, and we couldn't punish them with anything like a Surgical Extraction after we got rid of them or whatever. So I feel we fell just on the wrong side of variance a few times. I think a 3-2 probably would have been a fairer result for how the deck felt. We could have easily got a 4-1 if a few things broke slightly differently. Let's talk about the deck. So I think the deck is actually all right. I think it's pretty decent. I think it's the matchups you're playing have a huge impact on this. It's not like we have the tools to grind through every matchup. We don't really have that at the end of the day. So we basically can't beat blue-white control. That's so hard for us to do anything about because they got a load of basics, so our back to basics plan is irrelevant. They have Teferi, which stops our whole playing instant speed shenanigans, so that just goes away. And we don't really have a suitable backup plan of beating down with stuff. We can't outcard advantage them because we've got Snapcasters, they've got Narsets and all sorts. And they have a bunch of really cheap removal for our Pestermite or Deceiver Exarch. So that's not really a viable matchup at all. Death Shadow feels pretty tough. They've got Hand Disruption, they've got counter spells, they've got 0 mana kill spells for our guy. And we don't pressure their life total, so there's no cost for them paying that life. So, yeah, a bit awkward. But what we do have is the ability to win games out of nowhere. We're very good against these sort of stompy decks. Stompy decks kind of struggle because they don't really interact with us that well. We just kind of do our thing. So, maybe we could be all right if these sort of red-green stompy decks pick up a bit. And I think our matchup against things like the Maverick deck are actually pretty good too. And that deck's been picking up. I also think Death and Taxes isn't as good as it used to be because they now have free kill spells in the form of Solitude, and it's a free kill spell that we can't very easily counterspell with things like Spell Pierce. So maybe we want something like Mizium Skins, which is something I played in the past, which is just 1 mana, target creature you control gains Hexproof. And you can overload it for 2 mana to give all your guys Hexproof. I think I might also give it +1/+0, but that's not really relevant. So that would be better. That's like how to counter things like Abrupt Decay, which would be a problem, although there's not a lot of Abrupt Decay in the format right now. But that could be a thing that we pivot onto instead of Spell Pierce. Obviously, Spell Pierce is just really good in general because you can hit things like Teferi that are going to be a problem. You can stop combo players a little bit, like pick out key things. Like we definitely won games because of these Spell Pierces. We could also just go heavier into Spellskites and try and play more Spellskites. But again, I'm not sure that's necessarily the way to be. I think the problem is the format is a little bit too powerful for what we're trying to do here sometimes. And if you're assembling an A+B combo, our A+B combo loses to removal, which is really common in the meta right now. Whereas an A plus B combo like Show and Tell, which is in the same colours, they can also do on turn 1 because they have all this acceleration. And because of that, they also don't really lose to removal. Because Grizzlebrand, you draw a bunch of cards. Doesn't matter if you get removed. You're already miles ahead. If it's Emrakul, only very specific removal spells hit it. Things like Solitude. And if you have the Omniscience, then you can just do whatever you want. And it's game over anyway. So I think it's this, you know, we get the bonus of being able to play like a control deck a little bit. And we have things like Snapcaster Mage that we can actually use quite nicely in our deck. We have Back to Basics as an option as well, so we can lock people down. And we can certainly ruin their game that way. So we have different options, but I don't think our options are as good as what Sneak and Show is doing. And I don't think we can play like fast mana that effectively in this deck because we're trying to hit the 2 red, which is a little bit trickier when you're running all these soul lands. So we've got to go 2 and blue into 2 red, which means we need to be playing with Volcanic Islands, which exposes us to wastelands. And I guess it's like playing, would you rather be exposed to removal or wastelands in terms of like Show and Tell versus this. But obviously Show and Tell, what it's doing is quicker and more powerful because it's just a 3 mana spell. They cast it. If it resolves, they win. Whereas we have to assemble A plus B. And if they blow it up, we lose A and B. So it's kind of, we don't have as much redundancy as them. I don't have anything else to say about this today. It's a little bit sad that we didn't get a positive record. I felt we were very close to it. I think I'm going to keep brewing around this because this is, I mentioned earlier, this is the deck that I played for a couple of years, maybe 2-3 years. This was the main legacy deck I played. And, you know, I did pretty well with it. I won quite a lot of stuff with it. I got some signed City of Traitors and Lines of Diamonds and all sorts of stuff from it. So it was definitely very good at one point. However, I think that point has passed. The removal suite that people are playing these days is a lot more than it used to be. Creatures are just better than they used to be, so people have more removal, which means that our worst creatures, not only are they worse creatures, but they're easier to remove because people have more removal spells in their deck as a percentage. Quite where we go with this, I don't know. It'll return every now and then on my channel. I'm sure we'll find some new tools for it at some point. I'll try some different things. I used to run Blood Moon instead of Back to Basics as well, which is another thing you can do, which means that you get your Pestermites and stuff. You don't get the value of tapping out their lands and freezing them, but you do just get to shut down some decks and you can protect it with a Force of Will, which is often enough. So that's certainly an option we could think about if we wanted to go back to that, although it's less blue cards to pitch to Force of Will, and you also Brainstorm lock yourself with a Blood Moon in play because you can't do any fetch lands. Obviously you can ponder and shuffle away, but maybe we need more, so less of the Snapcaster, more of the cantrips, so have some preordains or something in there. Maybe peaks, that was a thing we used to play once upon a time. That's also quite good with the Snapcaster. It just gives you a little bit of information about what you're playing around. I know there's definitely some options. I'd like to hear what you think. Let me know in the comments how you would approach rebuilding this and what you think would be the best way to go forward. If we're going to have lots of these sort of like Naya Depths, Maverick style decks, then actually I think this deck is alright. But if we're going to have a load of Death Shadow, Shark Steel type stuff, I think we are probably not going to have a great time and we're going to have to put this one back on the shelf. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this one today. Something a bit different, something that's near and dear to my heart, even though it's very far down the tiers of decks and legacy right now. Alright, like, comment, subscribe, do these things, that's great. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.